my checkout statement is that this can be a good move to move teachers from occupying the center of the classroom towards facilitation. What you said struck me a great deal.
And I mean, what struck me, I actually didn't get to talk about it smallly, but I mean, what we've seen a lot with the learners that we work with is that technology by itself, and we did have a conversation about the fact that you can't always bypass teachers, although sometimes we do, but that teachers are so important for motivation, for encouraging, for keeping kids, when they get stuck, you know, helping them get unstuck. And what I found really interesting with this is, and I didn't get to ask the question to you, which I was hoping to, was whether the social interaction component helps to sustain the engagement of kids. Because the technology by itself, you know, kids will get bored sometimes and check out and then check back in again. And so how sustained that engagement is because you're using these kind of Generation X techniques.
So my checkout point is student collaboration. We these days we talk a lot about 21st century learning, the fact that we need to prepare our kids for the world of tomorrow, and one of the skills that they need is the ability to work together in small teams, collaborate. And I think this tool does a deal of this collaboration where kids have a problem and they work together to try and solve it.
And I would endorse that and say that peer learning is probably going to be so important in the future because of the lack of teachers in maths and science that we have. We're not going to be able to fill that up. Yeah.
I think that's, we kind of got to the same thing with teachers not being able to address or to teach maths and science the way they should be. And that this is another platform, a really good platform to learn anonymously in a way, to actually upskill themselves. Even though it's meant for the kids, the teachers are able to use it as well. And just that it's a very non-threatening environment for kids to be able to learn and to ask questions and to actually step out and start asking questions, because that's where we want them to be, and that's not something that comes naturally for a lot of kids.
Okay, so it's a good thought to take with us, is can we upskill teachers through this? Challenge to you how and why, and maybe you want to know more about your academy when it gets going, as well as learners, yes.
Yeah, for me the app or program actually addresses the two things of both teaching and learning. And at a point it brings them together, but they can also exist separately. So that learners can learn even if teachers are not supportive, and teachers can learn even if learners are not supportive. So they would interact and interface with each other. It actually allows that.
I think what I took away more than anything was the idea that came out, and it's also spoken about in that group, about learning to use the language the learners use. So almost, interacting the way that they interact, the way they're able to almost self-drive their own interests, and how it is that they come into interact with the things that interest them and intrigue them, and how the teachers no longer just the sole input of where they can go to access that information, but they have other ways, and including their own ideas. And for me, I found that really innovative, but also very important to keep in mind when we're wanting to drive design, because at the end of the day, there still needs to be that one thing that design makes them log onto this platform rather than any other platform to do something else completely unrelated. And if we don't tap into the design, then it's all really.
I think you said that right at the beginning.
Try to, I like the way it's expressed there.
Tap into the desire.
What we're discussing as a team is like, we're looking even at ourselves, like, he was the only one having technology, and I got my diary. So it simply means we need to start within ourselves, and if you want to embrace change.
Yeah.
Because you look at this technology, you want learners to embrace it, but I think for me personally, it starts with me, because I'm still engaged with learners right now, and I'm one person who says, don't bring cell phone to school. And for me now, it starts to be open-minded and say, maybe because I'm avoiding them, I'm not encouraging them to use it, they'll use it negatively, but if I can show the positive side of using a cell phone through this skill, then they might embrace it. Because now I'm creating, I'm creating that sense of what's a curiosity to say, what is it that they don't want us to see? But if they can see the positive side of how a cell phone can be used, then it can be embraced in class.
When OBE came along, we tried so hard to insist that the teacher should be a facilitator, that group work should happen, all these kind of wonderful things, but we didn't know how to do it. And the teachers did what they knew best, and that was content input. So I'm a good teacher if I spoke non-stop for 45 minutes. And now this is gently shifting them out of that role to become a facilitator rather than I'm going to throw content at these kids all the time.
Okay, so that's one of the important to that second question really, is what can you take forward? Is how do we actually create, those of you that are working with teachers, get them to be content and facilitators and to know when they in fact use both and how?
The learning of maths and science, for want of a better word, sexy. Maybe it's something that they want to do. I mean, I sit with a child and we get a terminology we don't know or a word. I say, well, Google it. He'll Google it right there on his phone and he'll tell me, oh, okay. And we've worked it, we've solved the problem. So they're used to going to technology. They'll Google for anything. So why can't they use this as a platform to study maths and science? Because it's very old subjects. They've been around a long time.
We're hearing from the departments of education in the provinces that we need to get into ICT. We're hearing now you say, okay, maybe in our sort of NGOs and all of that, we've got to start focusing. This is an easy question because you're in the budget.
For me, it's more like the flipping of the classroom. The holes in the classroom, we are breaking them down through ICT. Learning can now happen. I always tell the educators that teachers will not be replaced by ICT, but they will be replaced by the teachers who know how to use ICT.
From the discussion was that learners can freely ask questions. Sometimes some learners are shy. So it gives you the ability to express yourself. Even some teachers, they can also ask questions in the platform anonymously.
Okay.
And so it was getting in that part. And also even bypassing the teachers, I think. At one point it went, if the teacher is bad, let them be bypassed in the hard way, to say. We cannot rely on the bad teacher, messing up the learners in the long run. The teacher is there teaching grade 8 up to grade 12, is not willing to learn. That teacher is stuck. You can't do anything. For that situation, at least we'll just bypass the teacher.
Well, a lot of the same things, but I think also what I'm struck with by the presentation and also by our discussion is that technology can be used for this kind of qualitative part of learning. Because I think we've seen numerous innovations that have been about kind of instant marking and taking the burden of the teacher and having kind of real-time feedback for the learner. But I've often wondered what the actual learning that's taking place through the technology is, whereas I've heard absolutely thematically through what you said this morning is it takes time and it takes work and it's not so much the answer that matters, it's the process that matters. And you've even spoken about how you've sort of weighted the algorithms or whatever it is to try and understand the extent to which learners are engaging cognitively rather than providing the right answer. So I'm quite excited about that development. I think there's a lot of potential there.
I think for me, it was just reconfirmation, if you can say that, of technology being contextualized. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. And the other thing is that learners have always been so dependent on the teacher to give them that learning experience. Whereas something like this, just reversing the mindset and empowering the learner can put them into a whole new position and enable them to create their own future.
Okay, my check of this actually has been supporting too, which is the potential of this technology or app to tap into how the Generation X actually communicate and talk. but by providing a platform that is actually useful in terms of what we need them to be doing in maths and science. So, of course, I put some sort of a challenge here because I have nice, interesting arguments from research that the potential of this kind of a platform where we are able to use the language that is used by kids or the generation of today has the ability to improve their literacy levels. Because actually they are always communicating.
Yeah.
So we get to see that once all this are sorted, I know step by step babies, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
From what I've learned, a lot of people from our discussions is that students learn to be independent instead of depending on the teacher. Through the discussions that are happening, a student can crack out a question or read what others are posting, and then they can independently crack an answer out or find a way through. And the other one is that, one that Seth mentioned was that it bridges the gap between the urban and rural. Specifically, I would mention the mixed part that was presented to say most of the kids in the rural areas do not have access maybe to internet cafes or laptops and everything. But through mixed, they're also able to interact and have conversations and discussions with students all over the country.
Okay. Whenever I hear presentations, I always think on the micro level and then the macro level. At the micro level, my grade 10 housekeeper son who lives with us is going to be on basic tomorrow, and as is our security guard at the office, who has 2 subjects to finish in a matric, and this is fantastic. This is the kind of thing he could do. He's in an internet-rich environment, and he's just sitting there. He would do it. So I'll connect it to that. Then on the more macro level, I've been involved in a number of policy discussions, and I was just explaining to Nick that there are ways to get into the NEC's office and so on and so forth, and that there's some very powerful things that are happening in terms of ICT in education right now in this province, and you guys might be able to just ride that wave, and I think that would be